Um, so that way, if anyone's absent or they're not sure about how to write a film analysis, we can refer back to this recording and get dialed in. So, uh, like I said, this document usually I print out and give to everyone, but we'll go over it together in class, and then I'll make it available in our files section. So when we're writing a film analysis, the whole point of it is to figure out what the movie is really about, not not the plot of the movie, right? The plot of Titanic is that a boat sinks. That's what happens in the movie. But what is the movie really about, right? Titanic is really about love, being able to cross class boundaries, right? The poor kid from the lower decks falls in love with the rich girl from the the penthouse, and it still is okay. And then also kind of love crossing the barriers of time and the power of love, right? That's one of the meanings of Titanic. That's what Titanic is really about when we look at it. And so that's what film analysis is. Film analysis is all about exploring what a film is really about at its core. By looking at the themes that the director uses in the film, viewers can find what the director is trying to tell us about life or the world at large. So right? We're looking for the themes, the tools that the director is using, right? In English class, when you guys read a novel or a play or a poem, right, the author has tools at their disposal. They have things like diction and connotation and word choice and, meter and tone and all those things that authors have access to. Filmmakers have a different set of tools, right? They have camera angles and lighting and music and editing and framing, right? These are the tools that filmmakers have. So we have to look at how is the director using their tools, the themes, right? If they're always shooting the movie in close up, right? Oh man, this whole thing is shot in close up. What is the director trying to tell us by shooting everything in close up, right? They're using a tool to create a theme, which creates meaning. It kind of follows in that little flow, right? Use a tool like editing to create a theme, like they're always using jump cuts, and that gives a deeper meaning of something. Okay. Now, when we're watching the film, the thing we can't do today is when you can do this on a Friday night when you're watching a movie. The thing we can't do when you're watching a film for analysis is you can't get caught up in the action. You always have to be thinking like a filmmaker, right? You always have to be kind of analyzing and looking for things like what is the camera doing, right? If you're going to focus on the camera work of the film in your paper, then you should be really carefully paying attention to each shot. Look at what's going on here. Or maybe you're more of an editor person like me, right? You're thinking, what is the editor doing? Look at these jump cuts. Look at these kind of the long pace of the take here as compared to the fast pace of the takes here. Maybe you're more interested in lighting or sound or acting or color or whatever it is. Oop, someone's unmuted. Oop, there we go. Um, so let's see here. Where was I? So you're thinking about you're watching the film looking for these tools and these themes. You're not watching it being like, oh, whoa, she almost got shot. Oh my gosh, are they going to make it in time? Right? You got to kind of squash that excitement part of you and really lock into the filmmaker side of you. Um, so here's a little example of kind of like I was watching a movie the other day, and I always kind of think of movies in this way. And so I was thinking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and I was thinking, okay, what are some of the themes in this film? And what struck me was how early in the film, when we see Miles, they don't use a lot of the comic book kind of things. They don't use the text bubbles, and they don't split the screen into comic book frames very often. But then as the film goes on and he kind of starts to believe more and more that he is worthy of being Spider-Man and he gains confidence, then more and more of those comic book kind of things come into the movie. And so I would say that like the deeper meaning of the film is something like this. In the film Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse in 2018, director Bob Persichetti uses comic book imagery throughout the film to show the audience that being true to yourself is what makes you achieve your highest potential. Early in the film, when Miles is not sure about being Spider Man, there are relatively few thought bubbles or comic panels being used around Miles. There are many around the other Spider characters. as Miles begins to believe in himself, more and more comic book iconography appears around him, showing that as you begin to believe in yourself, you begin to find your place in the world more readily. So the tools that the director has, right, adding these graphics creates a theme that he doesn't do it a lot early and does it a lot late. And that shows me that as Miles, as the characters kind of believe more in themselves, they kind of find their place. And that's kind of what Spider-Verse is about. It's about kind of finding your place in the world and where you fit and believing in yourself, right? Miles doesn't really become a great superhero until he kind of believes in himself. You just have to know it, right? You never, no one tells you when you just know, right? I think they say that line in the film as well. So when we're sitting down to watch a film like Run Lola Run for the purpose of analyzing it, we want to be on the lookout for that theme, right? What is that theme that we're going to look out for? I always go over with you guys a few that the director will use in the film, so you're not just kind of stabbing in the dark hoping to find one. I always try to point out a couple before the movie starts, so that way as it plays you can be looking for something and kind of catching it as it goes. As you watch the film, be on the lookout for themes and then pick one that interests you the most. So I'm going to give you guys a couple. Like in Run Lola Run, there's a lot of stuff that has to do with the music. The color red is very important in this film. Clocks are very important in this film. Um, the pace, the roller coaster pace is very important in this film. But it's impossible to kind of follow all of those things. You kind of want to pick one. Like if you are interested in the way that the director's using the color red, really kind of look for that happening, kind of take note of when it happens. You don't have to take note of the music or the whatever other themes, right? So like I said, if you're really, whoops, if you are really noticing and liking the jump cuts, that there are jump cuts in Run Lola Run, then continue to pay attention to those and ignore the music, right? You don't need to try and take notes on every single thing. It's way too much. Or if the colors are really jumping out at you, keep looking for those shots where color is important throughout the film. So what you want to do is on a piece of paper or on a separate document that you have open on your screen, kind of be taking notes, and we'll be pausing and talking throughout the film. I'll be pointing out scenes where things are happening, but you're going to want to take notes. Oh, the red car when Lola, or the red stoplight when Manny almost robs the grocery store. There's an extreme close up of a red light, and when Lola is running to stop Manny, she passes by three bright red paintings and the red second hand on the clock. You're kind of taking notes, kind of little ideas down so that you can keep track of where these things happen, and you have a reference to them as you begin to write your paper. So after the film is over and we've watched it, you will have a list of scenes where your theme is present, right? Because you're taking notes as you go. And then when it's time to write the paper, we'll talk again, but it's time to think about why the director is doing what they're doing. Why is Tikwer using red in all these scenes? What is Tikwer trying to tell us about the world or life by using red over and over? Why is the color red so important in this movie? What is he trying to tell us? What is the deeper meaning he's trying to get across? And that is where your interpretation of the film comes into play and your analysis of the film comes into play. So a couple guidelines here. Number one, don't summarize the film when it comes time to write next week. We definitely don't just want to say, well, in the film Run Lola Run, Manny loses some money and the mobster is going to kill him, and then Lola has to go find the money, and then this happens, and then this happens, right? I've seen Run Lola Run like 80 times, so you don't have to tell me the story again. I know the story very, very well. The second thing that you don't want to do that people always seem to want to do is they want to write a review. Run Lola Run is so exciting. It kept me on the edge of my seat. It was really cool. The acting was really well done, right? It's not like you go into English class and you're writing things like Romeo and Juliet was such a great play. I really recommend it to everyone. It was really funny and Romeo's so cool, right? No one does that. And so we really want to stay away from writing a review. That is a definite no-no. Some other no-nos are we don't want to say I think or I believe or I saw, right? Because then it becomes an opinion piece and we're not really writing an opinion piece, we're writing an analysis. So we want to say things that happened. We want to say the director did this to show this. The director does this in this scene for this reason. The director does this to show the audience that, right? These are things that happened. You have proof of them. It's not your opinion that I think that the director did this. Like, look, he did it here, and here's the proof. He shot an extreme close up of a red stoplight in this scene. There it is. All right. So to summarize, we're going to find a theme. I'm going to give you guys a couple, and we're going to be on the lookout for them as the movie plays. We're going to find multiple places in the film where the theme is used. We're going to take notes every time. If you want to do red, every time you see the color red, type it up. Um, and then in your paper, explain what the director is trying to tell us through the use of that theme. So here's like a quick example of like the thesis statement, and I'll give you guys kind of an outline for the paper when we finish the movie as well. But a thesis statement should look something like this. In the film Run Lola Run, 1998, this is the MLA format for movies right there. Director Tom Tykwer uses, and here you put in the theme you found. So director Tom Tykwer uses the color red, right? If I think that that is the theme that I want to investigate. Tykwer uses the color red to, and here's where I put in the deeper meaning. Tykwer uses the color red to show that the universe is always sending us signals if only we pay enough attention to listen, right? And right, that's you'll see all the time in this movie. The color red is everywhere, and we usually think of red as a warning, as a stop, as danger. But Lola and Manny, they ignore all those symbols and they keep getting themselves into worse and worse situations. Tykwer does it like in scene one, like this. So I would cite a scene. Oh, when Manny goes to rob the grocery store and he crosses against the red light. Also, when Lola is running to save him and she passes these three bright red signs. And in scene three, the red second-hand clock always counts down to imminent danger or something like that. And this is how Tykwer shows us that the universe is out looking out for us, but we have to be willing to listen. So that would be a pretty good thesis statement, right? I'm using a theme, the color red, to show how Tykwer is using it to show a deeper meaning, and I'm backing it up with proof from scenes in the film. And then my first body paragraph would be explaining how scene one works. My second body paragraph would be explaining how scene two works, and my third body paragraph would be explaining how scene three works. And then I would write a conclusion paragraph and I'd be done. So some of the themes that are on display pretty heavily in Run Lola Run, and again, we want to try and pick one. You would have so many pages of notes if you tried to take notes on every single one of these themes. I usually tell people kind of wait almost until after. This movie's got a very strange story structure. It kind of goes act one, act two, then act two again, and then act two again, and then act three. It's got a time loop in it. And so I usually tell people wait until after like the first 20 minutes of the film to kind of decide on a theme that they want to focus on. But here are some of the themes that you'll see in the film. The first is kind of based in the screenplay and the story structure of the film, right? That's the tool that the director is using, and that is like the idea of fate or luck and destiny. And there are a lot of things, shots in the film and kind of stories in the film that pertain to that, right? Is your fate locked, or is your fate is it written in the stars that this is going to happen to you, or are we in control of our destinies in some way? That's a very prescient theme in the film. The second thing to pay attention to is kind of the roller coaster pace of the film. It has these super frenetic, fast sequences, and then very abruptly it will stop and it will be a very slow, languid, quiet sequence. And then it'll ramp back up again. And so the film kind of does this. There's never any kind of like middle ground. It's either like sprinting or crawling. Right pace is determined by many things: editing, camera movement, framing, right? Pace is a measure of energy, really, right? If things high energy or low energy. The camera, if you were to pay attention to the way that director uses the camera in the film, I think you could find some deeper meaning in that. There's a lot of motion in this film, a lot of trucking, a lot of dollying. Very rarely is the camera still in this film, and even if it is, it's always moving around to different framings and different angles. It very rarely repeats an angle. Let's put it that way. The color red is a very important theme in this film. Lola's hair is bright red. I mean, it's everywhere, and it's not an accident, right? Movies don't really contain accidents. The director said, "I want that to be a red car. That phone needs to be red. I want her to carry the money in a red bag." Right? These things are all conscious choices made by the director. The music in the film is very unique. It's late 1990s. It's European techno. It's got a very like repetitive beat to it, and that's kind of prescient considering that the film kind of loops on itself a couple times. There is one English track in the film because it is a German film, but there is one song that's in English, and some of the lyrics of all, even the techno songs, have English in it, which is kind of weird. Um, Clocks are a very big theme. As a prop, you'll see a lot of close-ups of clocks, extreme close-ups of clocks, of watches. There's got to be 20 to 30 shots of clocks in this film. The first shot of the film is a clock, in fact, so that's always important. Some of the more tricky themes to be on the lookout for is one is that Tickware uses lots of different mediums to shoot this film. Obviously, 35 millimeter color film is the main, but he uses 16 millimeter black and white footage, uses animation, still photos, um, and video, standard def video. So lots of different styles and lots of different equipment. It's not just a film camera and be done with it. Lots of different types of cameras and different technologies. And then there's a weird Greek mythology undercurrent here that a couple of people have picked up on over the years as well. So if you want to get bold, you can be on the lookout for that one. So let's pull it up here. Pull up this movie and get to it. It lives right over here on my server. Hopefully, there we go. And I will post the movie, a link to the movie when we're done watching it, so you can download it, so you can look back at things on your paper going forward. All right, so let's stop the recording.